Hey there, friends. Welcome back. I suppose I could consider this an addendum to my previous video, which is about faux intellectualism, or rather, our lack of true intellectual figures to look up to today. And this is, of course, my opinion, as always. I need to postulate, make sure that I reiterate the fact that I am not an intellectual. I don't consider myself an intellectual. I consider myself a philosopher, but only by practice. I don't consider to be an expert on other philosophers. I didn't take college courses on philosophy. No, I got out of high school and I was fascinated with wisdom and knowledge, and I studied other cultures, other religions, the greatest thinkers in history, and I came to the conclusion, years past, that I don't really care whether it was Thomas Hobbes or Karl Marx or Descartes, or who said a particular quote, who had a particular idea or a theory, or whether or not a certain person can be attributed to a certain cause. I'm not into the people. It's more like I'm into the ideas, and it's the same thing that I've discovered with like music. It's just how I am with things. I don't care about the band members or the names. I rarely even know the names of the songs. I like the music. And I don't know if that's just a trait of me or if other people have that too. I've just noticed it's something about me. Other people tend to want to know more about the specific person, but for me, it's just the idea. And because of that, all the different ideas about, communism and capitalism and love and the various different degrees of wisdom and intellect that people have, spent, millennia considering. To me, all that matters are the ideas and what works and what doesn't. And I believe by not getting attached to specific people, then we eliminate the potential pitfall of groupthink. Because if a person goes along with a specific leader, philosopher, intellect, and that person tells you something that, excuse me, maybe doesn't resonate quite with you, but you figure, well, it goes along with what they're saying and everything else they say must be good, so we'll just go along with that too. This has led us down some deep, dark paths, especially in recent years, with a lot of people out there in this quote outrage culture that we have right now who want to get angry about everything and accuse everyone of being this, that, or something other. Really need to turn that gaze inward because we have an extremely myopic view of progress right now. The idea that if everybody just thinks like us, whatever team you might be on, then everything would get better. Knowing damn well that that's completely ridiculous. That we've always had a variety of different opinions and ideas, and that's what has made our country, the United States of America, a successful, positive country for so long, which is falling by the wayside. However, we have always been known as being a very optimistic country. When people did interviews around the world, they found the US was the most optimistic country. Why were the citizens optimistic? Because they had a future to look forward to, at least in their minds. At one time, the idea was you can get a good paying job, buy a home, retire, and this may seem like a very simple, boring life to people today. Say, oh God, that was just the old American dream. That American dream came on the heels of the worst crisis we'd ever had financially. And before that, this nation had suffered many different rounds of poverty and addiction and problems. We'd been through a lot of suffering, and all people really wanted was just to be able to live comfortably. Today, now that so many people have lived comfortably for so long, people are yearning for more. They're reaching out and saying, this isn't good enough. We want better. And this is understandable because I see so many things in society that need to be fixed. So many issues with, politics, you name it. Every avenue needs to be worked on right now. But that's always been the case, hasn't it? So meanwhile, we're looking to other people for ideas. And it's important that we're aware that they're just human too. That every other individual wakes up, takes a shit, shaves, gets their clothes on, looks in the mirror. We're all just people. And every one of those other individuals out there, even the greatest thinkers of our time, are, as they say, on the shoulders of giants. Everything we've created is on the shoulders of giants. There's this old saying that, which I don't like attributing sayings to people because you always find out that they never said that. Basically, no, I guess no man is an island is a good one, but that's in the sense that we all need help, that we all have built upon each other. And you can't really be isolated in this world and expect to be successful or happy in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I'm not saying you can't move out by yourself in the woods, and if that's your thing, and build a cabin. But for most people, having that connection is important. And to get back to the point here, is that we're this kind of pseudo-intellectualism that we have out there isn't really our fault. It's because if we look at the real truth of things and we really open our eyes to how bad things are and how much better they could be in certain aspects. I mean, you don't have to pay attention to all the inner workings of the political structure or the power structure. You can choose to just live your life and ignore the outside, but that outside will still affect you, which is why each individual has to partake somewhat, at least in dialogue or attempting to understand. I don't feel like you're a participating citizen just because you vote. I don't believe that if you want to call yourself an actual patriot, for example, you should be educated. You should be informed on the topics. You shouldn't just say, I'm voting, I think this bill is bad because, the guy I voted for said this bill was bad. We do trust others, and maybe that's something we should really put into consideration. The fact that even since no matter how strong we are by ourselves, we still look to others for advice. So be very careful who you're looking to for advice and exactly what they want out of it. We need more free thinkers, we need more philosophers, but we need more honest thinking. And the issue isn't that the people aren't out there. It's not that we're not thinking about things. It's that topics like this don't sell. They don't sell you books. They don't sell you ad time. They don't sell you, they don't get you on shows for interviews unless what you talk about is controversial. I'm pointing the finger at the left. I'm pointing the finger at the right. Whichever, group you want to chastise that week, where other people can stand behind it. And that is, my friends, rage bait. And so consider anything that anyone's saying that you want to believe. Consider if it's something that makes people angry. And also consider if it's actually useful. It's kind of like when they say scientists, they may be quick to create something, but it's the philosophers that help us decide whether or not we should. And I always think of Oppenheimer, who helped to create the first atomic bomb. And he quoted the Bhagavad Gita, where it said, he was speaking of Shiva, he said, I am become death, destroyer of worlds. And he had some other things to say, but let's just say that he stepped back with a little bit of regret that he'd helped to create something so monstrously dangerous that could end humanity. And that was the ultimate example that's usually given to just because you could doesn't mean you should. However, all that aside, it's irrelevant. Because if humans can, they will. It's the same question with Neuralink and, putting chips in people's brains. Could help some people see. Could create super soldiers. There could be good and bad in every situation. It doesn't matter whether people agree with it or not. It's going to happen. Cloning, stem cells, all these things, they happen anyway. So you can't put it past humans and our ingenuity. We're going to come up with things and we're going to want to share them. That is what it is. What we have to do is raise better people that consider what they're doing before they even start. The kind of people who add philosophy and thinking into their own ideas. The kind of people who don't just sit and listen to philosophers and great thinkers, but can participate. But one last important point on this is that for those who do participate and those who do share and those who are great thinkers, I believe that comes with great responsibility. The greatest thinkers of our time have more responsibility on their shoulders than even the greatest inventors or the richest people, most famous people, actors, whatever it might be, musicians. None of them, they all pale in comparison to the thinkers, the ones who drive think tanks, the ones who drive policy and have laws passed because of ideas that these thinkers have come up with. And when these think tanks are paid by the wrong people, thinkers and philosophers can be bought, just like scientists, mathematicians, and anyone else. For anyone who doubts that, we read a lot of bullshit science, all you have to do is just think about it for 5 minutes. A company needs some science done. Perhaps, let's say theoretically, there was a train derailment in Ohio, and, million gallons of toxic sludge spills out, and they have to do some cleanup. Well, the company would theoretically hire people to go door to door and do well testing and test the area and the soil samples around the area to make sure that everything's fine. Of course, if the company hired the people, they might theoretically be the same company that has been called out for lying about testing on other spills that are usually paid by the company, because you don't need a third party. It's just like a doctor doing a study that's not only not a double-blind study, but not even a blind study. A study where the patient and the doctor both know what the real medicine and the placebo are. And they say, okay, this one's fake, this one's real, see which one works for you. You're going to have bias because of that. But we trust the people that we put in charge because we trust that they're thinking things through. But I guess getting off track there, the point was that experts can be paid off. And so can people who we trust with our thoughts and our ideas. The kind of people who you might see on late night news. Perhaps Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro or whoever's on the left. I don't even pay attention these days, but whoever the people are that others listen to, the people that used to be known as journalists, for example, which are considered to be the forefront of our information, which are just giving you half-truths all day long. And, the toxic venom spews, the sputum from the mouths of the idiots out there who claim to have our best interests at heart. But that's neither here nor there. I just think we need to really take back our own personal power, and especially not associate with ideas. In other words, no matter what you believe to be true, when you discuss it, be open to the fact you might be wrong. And even if you're not wrong, don't be so tied to an idea that you end up accusing another person of some evil because you don't like their answer. I can't tell you how many times I've had a discussion with somebody where they say, this is true. And I say, well, I think this is true. And they say, yeah, well, you suck. In more words than that. But, even I don't like this particular thing. Oh, well, your life is a joke, or you suck, or, your family should die. I've heard some really horrific things from people on the internet and learned to just kind of roll my eyes and say, this person's way too connected with their own truth to the point where they're willing to support their truth over actual real human discussion and connection, which is what holds us back. And when I look at some of the greatest thinkers today that are speaking on these stages and panels, they tend to be just waiting for their turn to tell the other guy he's wrong. In other words, there are a million people out there who will tell you how the other guys are wrong. But listen closely for the one who tells you how we can make it better, because that's ultimately what we really want. Talk to you next time.